The network has no name, no address, no door. And yet, right now, at this exact moment, it is moving billions. Not through servers, not through compliance departments staffed with men in gray suits checking boxes on forms nobody reads. Through a phone call, 30 seconds, a code word exchanged between two strangers who will never share the same room, the same city, or the same continent. Money dissolves in Karachi. It materializes in London, clean, untouchable, inevitable. This is not a loophole. It is not a glitch. It is older than the banks that claim to govern the world, older than the dollar, older than the very concept of a border drawn by men who believed a line on a map could stop the movement of human need. Empires tried to kill it. Regulators tried to map it. The most sophisticated intelligence apparatus in human history tried to infiltrate it. It is still here. It financed the dreams of fathers sending wages home from foreign soil. It financed nightmares you have read about in headlines and never fully understood. The same network, the same silence, the same invisible hand reaching across jurisdictions that would stop anything else cold. They call it Hawala. And before this is over, you will never look at a currency exchange booth, a cargo manifest, or a 30-second phone call the same way again.
It began with a problem older than civilization itself. How do you move wealth across a world that wants to take it from you? Not steal it, tax it, confiscate it, drain it at some dusty checkpoint manned by a soldier whose loyalty belongs to whoever paid him last. The ancient merchant at the edge of the Silk Road did not have a bank account. He had something far more powerful. He had a name, a reputation, and a network of men who trusted that name with their lives. This was not primitive. This was elegant. Centuries before the first central bank drew breath, before SWIFT codes and correspondent banking and the entire choreographed performance of modern finance, a parallel architecture already existed, running on honor, on kinship, on the foundational understanding that a man's word, in certain circles, was a more binding contract than anything a court of law could ever produce. The word itself, Hawala, is Arabic. It translates loosely as transfer, as trust, as the simple, radical act of handing your faith to another human being and expecting the universe to settle the debt. Here is how it worked. A laborer in Dubai, call him Tariq, wants to send his monthly wages to his family in a village outside Lahore. He walks into a small shop. No marble floors, no corporate logo. The broker behind the counter knows his face. Tariq hands over the cash. The broker makes a call. 112 seconds, if that. Somewhere in Lahore, a second broker, a cousin, a childhood friend, a man bound by decades of mutual obligation, counts out the equivalent sum in local currency and delivers it to Tariq's wife before sunset. No wire, no fee swallowing 30% of a working man's survival, no 48-hour clearing window. Just trust, executed with the quiet precision of a system that has been running without interruption since the medieval trade routes of South Asia and the Middle East first carved themselves into the geography of human commerce. For the invisible millions abandoned by formal finance, Hawala was not a workaround, it was the system. A lifeline stitched from reputation and silence, humming beneath the surface of the world's economy without a single server, a single regulator, or a single record that could ever be subpoenaed. But every infrastructure has two sides, and the same invisibility that protected the vulnerable was about to attract something that would change the calculus of global crime forever. Something that transformed a lifeline into a weapon with global reach. Globalization did not destroy Hawala, it weaponized it. The same decade that delivered the internet, satellite communications, and the frictionless movement of capital across borders also gave criminal architectures something they had never possessed before: scale. Diaspora networks expanded. Capital controls tightened around fragile economies, while illicit fortunes swelled in their shadows. And somewhere in the space between the legitimate and the unthinkable, someone made a calculation. No SWIFT messages, no suspicious transaction reports, no centralized database cataloging every movement, every name, every number. Just silence. Just the same invisible machinery that had served migrant workers for centuries, now redirected. The cartels arrived first, or perhaps simultaneously. It does not matter who reached the architecture of exploitation earliest. What matters is what they brought. Narcotics proceeds moving through Hawala brokers layered across 3 continents, each settlement fragmented, each node separated from the last by enough degrees of remove that no single investigation could ever reconstruct the full topology of the transaction. The money did not travel, the debt did. And debt, unlike cash, leaves no fingerprints. Then came the terror financiers. Post-9/11 investigations peeled back the surface of multiple al-Qaeda funding streams and found Hawala networks operating beneath them with surgical composure. Not chaotic, not improvised, deliberate. Exploiting the system's foundational virtue, its refusal to generate records, as a tactical shield against the most sophisticated counterterrorism apparatus in human history. And then there were the elites, the sanctioned ministers, the oligarchs for whom the formal banking system had grown inconveniently transparent. Hawala offered something no offshore account in the Cayman Islands could replicate: not regulatory opacity, structural non-existence. $650 billion moves annually through global remittance channels. The share flowing through informal systems like Hawala is by design impossible to quantify. That ambiguity is not an accident. It is the product. The invisibility is the service being sold. Informality became camouflage. Trust became a weapon. The lifeline that had sustained the world's most economically fragile human beings had been infiltrated, co-opted, and transformed into one of the most sophisticated illicit financial arteries on the planet. But governments were watching. Intelligence agencies were mapping. Task forces were mobilizing with the full institutional weight of geopolitical resolve. And what happened next did not go the way anyone in power expected. They came with warrants, with task forces, with the aggressive certainty of institutions that believed surveillance could eradicate what centuries of empire had failed to touch. And they found storefronts, fluorescent-lit currency exchange booths with handwritten ledgers and walls covered with Western Union advertisements, men in ordinary clothes behind ordinary counters, processing the wages of laborers, the savings of families, the quiet financial lives of people the formal system had never bothered to serve. Raids happened. Licenses were revoked. The Financial Action Task Force classified Hawala-type networks as high-risk channels for money laundering and terrorist financing. Know Your Customer requirements expanded. Anti-money laundering frameworks tightened like a fist around informal value transfer systems worldwide. Hawala adapted, quietly, without announcement, without resistance. It simply became something harder to see. Communications migrated to encrypted platforms. Settlements fragmented further, layering across jurisdictions in sequences too complex for any single regulatory body to trace end-to-end. Cryptocurrency entered the architecture, not replacing Hawala, but fusing with it, adding a digital layer to a system already defined by its structural invisibility. Trade-based money laundering blended with informal settlement mechanisms, disguising value transfers inside the legitimate movement of goods. The cargo manifest became the new ledger. The shipping container became the new vault. The network did not collapse under pressure. It evolved beneath it. And here is the cold reality no regulatory framework has yet reconciled. In Afghanistan, in Somalia, in Syria, in dozens of fragile and conflict-affected states where formal banking infrastructure is absent or irrelevant, Hawala is not a shadow system. It is the system. Eradicate it, and you do not eliminate illicit finance. You eliminate the last financial lifeline available to millions of human beings surviving at the edges of a global economy that was never designed to include them. The formal system created the void. Hawala filled it. The cartels, the terror cells, the sanctioned oligarchs, they did not build this shadow. They simply moved into a house that was already standing. And somewhere right now, a phone is ringing. 30 seconds, a code word, a debt settled in silence.
There are no heroes in this story. No whistleblower who cracked the code, no regulator who dismantled the network, no moment of institutional triumph where the machinery of the shadow economy ground to a halt and the world exhaled. There is only the ledger. Worn leather, faded ink, columns of numbers written by hands that understood something the architects of modern finance refused to acknowledge. That trust, in the right conditions, is more durable than any regulatory framework ever constructed. That the human need to move value, to survive, to provide, to protect, will always outrun the institutional mechanisms designed to monitor it. Consider what was built here. No servers, no compliance departments, no quarterly earnings calls, no Basel III capital requirements. Just a phone call, just a name, just the accumulated reputational weight of a family or a community, guaranteeing the integrity of a transaction across 10,000 miles of geopolitical complexity. The efficiency is staggering. The implications are darker still. Because the same architecture that allows a father in Kabul to feed his children through a 30-second phone call also allows a sanctioned regime to dissolve billions in state assets into the invisible economy without leaving a single recoverable trace. The same silence that protects the vulnerable conceals the predatory. And no algorithm, no AI-powered transaction monitoring system, no intergovernmental task force has yet discovered how to surgically extract one from the other. This is not a failure of intelligence. It is a failure of design. The formal financial system was architected for inclusion in theory and exclusion in practice. And every system that excludes creates a parallel. Every wall builds a tunnel beneath it. Hawala is not the disease. Hawala is the symptom. The disease is a global financial architecture so fractured, so unequal, so deliberately opaque in its own right that a trust-based shadow network operating on handshakes and code words became not just viable, but necessary. And if you think the story ends here, with ledgers and phone calls and crumbling storefronts and cities that Western finance forgot, you have not yet seen what the shadow became when it met the digital age. That chapter has no storefront, no broker, no handshake, and it moves faster than anything that came before it.